The shattered dream, the perfect storm. Celeste Romano adjusted the emerald silk of her gown one final time, her reflection in the hotel suite mirror showing a woman who had spent weeks perfecting every detail for this night. Her dark hair cascaded in elegant waves over her shoulders, and the vintage diamond earrings her grandmother had left her caught the light beautifully. Tonight marked not only her 28th birthday, but also her 3rd wedding anniversary with Daniel, celebrated together at the prestigious Metropolitan Grand Ballroom. The past months had been challenging for their marriage. Daniel's architecture firm had been struggling, and the stress had created distance between them. Tonight was meant to bridge that gap, to remind them both of what they had built together. Celeste had organized everything herself, from the guest list of their closest friends and family to the menu featuring Daniel's favorite dishes from their honeymoon in Italy. Her phone buzzed with a message from the event coordinator confirming that everything was prepared according to her specifications. Taking a deep breath, Celeste gathered her small clutch and headed downstairs, anticipation and nervous energy mixing in her stomach. The celebration begins. The ballroom looked magnificent under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. White roses and greenery created elegant centerpieces, while string lights added a romantic ambience to the space. Guests mingled during the cocktail hour, their laughter and conversation creating a warm atmosphere that made Celeste's heart swell with satisfaction. Her best friend Sophia approached with 2 champagne glasses, her expression bright with excitement. "You've outdone yourself, Celeste. This is absolutely beautiful." "Thank you," Celeste replied, accepting the champagne gratefully. "I just hope Daniel appreciates all the effort." She scanned the room, noting that several guests had already arrived, but her husband was nowhere to be seen. He had promised to arrive by 7:30, and it was now nearly 8 o'clock. Celeste tried to push down the familiar feeling of disappointment that had become too common in recent months, as if summoned by her thoughts. Daniel finally appeared at the entrance, but something was immediately wrong. His usually impeccable appearance was disheveled, his tie loosened, and there was an unsteadiness to his walk that suggested he had been drinking heavily before arriving. "There's my beautiful wife," he announced loudly as he approached, his voice carrying across the room in a way that made several guests turn to look. The kiss he planted on her cheek was perfunctory and reeked of expensive whiskey. "Daniel, are you all right?" Celeste whispered, concern overriding her relief at his arrival. "Never better," he replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We get this party started?" The unthinkable betrayal, without waiting for her response. Daniel strode toward the small stage where the musicians had been playing soft background music. Celeste followed, her heart beginning to race with a sense of foreboding she couldn't shake. "Good evening, everyone," Daniel began, tapping the microphone to get the room's attention. "Thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate my wife's birthday and our wedding anniversary." The gathered guests turned their attention to the stage, smiling expectantly. Celeste stood at the edge of the platform, confusion growing as she noticed the cold edge in Daniel's voice. "Celeste has always been one for grand gestures," Daniel continued, his tone becoming increasingly bitter. "She loves to create perfect moments, perfect appearances, to show everyone what a successful couple we are." Murmurs of discomfort rippled through the crowd as the guests began to sense that something was terribly wrong. "The truth is, Daniels," the voice grew stronger, more cruel, "there's nothing left to celebrate. Our marriage has been a facade for months, a business arrangement that has outlived its usefulness." Celeste felt the blood drain from her face as the room fell silent. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not like this. "You see," Daniel continued, his eyes now fixed directly on his wife. "I married Celeste because she had connections in an architectural world that benefited my career. She married me because she thought I could provide her with the stability and status she craved after her parents died." The words hit Celeste like physical blows. Her parents had died in a car accident 2 years before she met Daniel, and he had been her anchor during that grief. To have him weaponize that pain was unthinkable. "But I've realized that no amount of expensive parties or desperate attempts to fix our problems can make this charade worth continuing." Daniel reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. "So tonight, in honor of our anniversary, I'm giving my wife exactly what she deserves." He extended the envelope towards Celeste with a cruel smile. "Divorce papers, Celeste. Consider yourself served." The world collapses. The envelope fell to the stage floor as Celeste stared at it, unable to process the magnitude of what was happening. The room around her seemed to spin, faces blurring together in a mixture of shock, pity, and in some cases, morbid fascination. "Did you really think organizing this elaborate party would fix everything?" Daniel asked, his voice amplified by the microphone for everyone to hear. "Did you think I wouldn't notice how you've been trying so desperately to save something that was never real in the first place?" A sob escaped Celeste's throat as she sank to her knees on the stage, her elegant gown pooling around her like spilled emeralds. The humiliation was complete, total, witnessed by everyone she cared about. "I suggest everyone enjoy the expensive dinner my soon-to-be ex-wife has provided," Daniel concluded, replacing the microphone with finality. "Consider it her farewell gift to us all." With that, he walked off the stage and headed directly for the exit, leaving behind a ballroom full of stunned guests and his wife. Broken on the floor where their marriage had just died, an unexpected angel threw her tears in the haze of shock. Celeste was dimly aware of movement around her. Sophia's voice, fierce with protective anger. Other friends approaching, but hesitating, sure how to help in the face of such public devastation. Then, unexpectedly, a gentle hand touched her shoulder. She looked up through her tear-blurred vision, to see a man she didn't recognize kneeling beside her. He was tall and impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit, with kind hazel eyes and an aura of quiet strength that somehow cut through her shame. "My name is Nathan Cross," he said softly, his voice a soothing baritone that seemed to create a pocket of calm in the chaos. "I was invited through a mutual business contact. What just happened to you was unconscionable." He offered her a pristine handkerchief, which she accepted wordlessly, pressing it to her cheeks. "No one deserves such treatment," Nathan continued, his calm tone belying the fire she could see in his eyes, especially not someone who clearly put their whole heart into creating something beautiful. Something about his words penetrated the shell of Celeste's shock. She drew a shuddering breath, finding her voice at last. "I just wanted to save our marriage," she whispered, her fingers instinctively reaching for the pearl necklace at her throat, another family heirloom she treasured. "Some things can't be saved," Nathan replied gently. "Some people don't deserve the salvation offered to them." He paused, studying her face with an intensity that was somehow comforting rather than invasive. "But that doesn't reflect on your worth, Celeste. That reflects on his." The impossible proposal. Nathan helped her to her feet, his hand steady and warm as it supported her trembling form. The guests were beginning to disperse, the party effectively over, but Nathan seemed focused only on her. "Celeste Romano," he said, his voice growing more confident. "I know this is unprecedented, perhaps even inappropriate given what just happened, but I believe in acting on moments of clarity." She looked at him in confusion, wiping away fresh tears. "I've followed your architectural work for some time," Nathan continued. "Your residential designs, the way you create homes that feel both elegant and welcoming. I was actually planning to approach you professionally next month about a collaboration." A murmur rippled through the remaining guests who were close enough to hear. "What I witnessed tonight was cruelty beyond comprehension." Nathan's voice grew stronger. "A woman like you deserves reverence, not ridicule. You deserve someone who recognizes your value, would treasure rather than trivialize your efforts to create beauty and meaning." With a fluid movement that drew gasps from the onlookers, Nathan lowered himself to one knee before Celeste, taking her hand in his. "I would be honored to be that man," he said, his expression utterly sincere. "Celeste Romano, would you allow me to court you with the intention of marriage? I promise you will never again know the pain of unappreciated devotion." The remaining guests erupted in shocked whispers. Celeste stared down at this stranger, this Nathan Cross, who was proposing marriage to her minutes after her husband had publicly divorced her. "You don't even know me," she managed to say. I know." "Enough," Nathan replied without hesitation. "I know you have a generous heart, impeccable taste, and the strength to face humiliation with dignity. I know you deserve better than what you received tonight. The rest I would spend a lifetime discovering if you'd let me." As Celeste looked into Nathan's eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in months. perhaps years. Genuine admiration, respect, and a quiet strength that promised protection without condescension. For the first time since Daniel had begun his cruel speech, Celeste felt something other than devastation. She felt the faintest glimmer of hope. Rising from the ashes the morning after, Celeste woke in her apartment the next morning with swollen eyes and the phantom weight of Nathan Cross's business card on her nightstand. The events of the previous night felt surreal, like a nightmare she might wake from at any moment. But the divorce papers scattered on her coffee table, and the emerald gown hanging wrinkled in her closet were proof that it had all been terribly real. Her phone had been buzzing, constantly with messages from friends, family, and even colleagues who had somehow heard about the public spectacle. She had turned it off around midnight, unable to face the mixture of sympathy, curiosity, and, in some cases, barely concealed satisfaction from people who had always secretly hoped to see her fall. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Through the peephole, she saw Sophia holding coffee and pastries, concern written across her features. "How are you holding up?" Sophia asked as Celeste let her in. "I've been better," Celeste replied, with a weak attempt at humor. "I keep waiting to wake up and discover this was all some terrible dream." Sophia set down the coffee and studied her friend's face. "Have you thought about what that man said? Nathan Cross?" Celeste had thought of little else. Actually, the stranger, who had appeared at her lowest moment, offering not just comfort, but something unprecedented. He was probably just caught up in the drama of the moment. No one makes life-changing decisions based on witnessing someone else's public humiliation. Maybe, Sophia agreed. Or maybe some people recognize opportunity when they see it. Research over the following days, Celeste found herself researching Nathan Cross obsessively. What she discovered was both impressive and slightly overwhelming. He was the CEO of Cross Development, a company specializing in sustainable luxury real estate. His projects had won numerous awards for their innovative design and environmental consciousness. More importantly, there were no scandals attached to his name, no trail of broken relationships or questionable business practices. He was 34, unmarried, and according to several business profiles, known for his methodical approach to both business and personal decisions. The articles painted him as someone who moved carefully but decisively, which made his impulsive proposal all the more intriguing. A week after the anniversary disaster, Celeste's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. She almost didn't answer, still avoiding most calls, but something made her pick up. "Celeste, this is Nathan Cross. I hope you don't mind me calling." His voice was exactly as she remembered it, calm and reassuring. "I wanted to check on you and to apologize if my words the other night added to your distress rather than providing comfort." "No," Celeste found herself saying quickly. "No, you didn't add to anything. You were kind." In a moment when kindness was rare. "I'm glad to hear that," Nathan replied. "I was wondering if you might be willing to meet with me. Not for any romantic purpose," he added quickly. "But I meant what I said about your architectural work. Have a project that could genuinely benefit from your expertise." The project 3 days later, Celeste found herself in Nathan's downtown office, space that perfectly reflected his reputation for sophisticated taste. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, while the decor struck a balance between professional authority and personal warmth. Nathan greeted her with the same quiet confidence she remembered from their first meeting, offering coffee and making sure she was comfortable before getting down to business. "I'm developing a residential complex in the Riverside district," he explained, spreading architectural plans across the conference table. "Luxury apartments, but with an emphasis on community spaces and environmental sustainability." Celeste studied the plans with professional interest, immediately seeing both the potential and the challenges. The layout is innovative, but the common areas feel cold. They need elements that encourage interaction while still respecting privacy. "Exactly what I was thinking," Nathan said, watching her face light up as she became absorbed in the work. "Your residential designs have that quality, the ability to make spaces feel both elegant and welcoming." For the next 2 hours, they discussed the project in detail, Celeste found herself relaxing for the first time since the anniversary party. Her mind engaged with creative problem-solving rather than replaying painful memories. "I'd like to offer you the contract for the interior design consultation," Nathan said as they wrapped up the meeting. "Separate from any personal considerations, this would be a professional collaboration." Celeste looked at him carefully. "And the personal considerations?" Nathan's expression grew serious. "I meant what I said that night, Celeste, but I also understand that you're processing a significant trauma. If you're willing, I'd like to take you to dinner. Just conversation. Let me show you that not all men are like Daniel." The courtship, their first dinner, was at a small Italian restaurant that Nathan chose specifically because it was quiet and intimate rather than showy. He asked about her work, her dreams, her plans for the future. He listened when she talked about her parents, about the loneliness that had made her vulnerable to Daniel's initial charm. "I lost my father when I was 16, Nathan shared. He was a construction worker, died in an accident on a job site. It's part of why I'm so focused on safety standards in my developments." The personal revelation, offered without drama or expectation of reciprocation, touched Celeste deeply. This was so different from Daniel's way of relating, where every conversation somehow became about his needs, his problems, his successes. Their second meeting was a walk through one of Nathan's completed projects, a residential community that had transformed a formerly neglected neighborhood. As they toured the spaces, Celeste could see how his vision created not just housing, but genuine community. The playground was added because the families requested it, Nathan explained as they watched children playing while their parents chatted nearby. Good development serves the people who live there, not the other way around. By their third meeting, dinner at Nathan's penthouse, where he cooked for her himself, Celeste realized something significant was shifting inside her. The constant tension she had carried during her marriage, the feeling of walking on eggshells, had been replaced by a sense of safety she hadn't experienced in years. The confrontation as Celeste was beginning to believe in the possibility of happiness again, Daniel re-entered her life with characteristic arrogance. He appeared at her apartment one evening, apparently having spent weeks building up his courage, or perhaps his spite. "So I hear you found yourself a rebound," he said, pushing past her into the living room uninvited. "Nathan Cross, right? Very impressive catch, Celeste. Did you waste any time before throwing yourself at the first rich man who showed you attention?" "Get out, Daniel," Celeste said quietly, but he ignored her. "Do you really think he's serious? About you? Men like Cross don't marry damaged goods. He's probably just enjoying the novelty of playing savior." The words were designed to wound, to reopen the insecurities Daniel had spent years cultivating in her. But instead of the crushing pain she expected, Celeste felt something else entirely. Anger. "You're wrong," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Nathan is nothing like you. He sees value where you saw only opportunity. He offers partnership where you demanded submission." Daniel's expression darkened. "We'll see how long that lasts. I give it 6 months before he gets bored and moves. On to someone younger, prettier, less complicated." "Even if that were true," Celeste replied, moving to hold the door open for him, 6 months of being valued would be worth more than 3 years of being diminished. The resolution, the confrontation with Daniel, proved to be exactly what Celeste needed. Seeing him again, hearing his attempts to undermine her newfound confidence, made her realize how much she had changed. The woman who had crumbled on that ballroom stage would have believed his poisonous words. The woman she was becoming recognized them as the desperate attacks of someone who had lost all power over her. That night, she called Nathan and told him about Daniel's visit. Instead of becoming possessive or angry, Nathan listened carefully and then asked a simple question. "How did it make you feel to stand up to him?" "Powerful," Celeste admitted. "Like I remembered who I used to be before. I let him convince me I was less than I am." "That's exactly who you've always been," Nathan said softly. "You just forgot for a while." The new beginning 6 months after the anniversary party that had destroyed her marriage. Celeste stood in Nathan's office looking at the completed plans for their collaborative project. The Riverside development was more than a residential complex. It was a community that would provide beautiful, affordable housing while fostering connection between neighbors. We make a good team, Nathan said, standing behind her, his hands resting gently on her shoulders. We do, Celeste agreed, leaning back against him. Over these months, their relationship had developed with the same careful attention to detail that characterized Nathan's business approach. Every step forward had been discussed, every boundary respected, every milestone celebrated. Celeste, Nathan said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. He turned her to face him, his hands cupping her face gently. I have something to ask you. For the second time in her life, Celeste watched a man drop to one knee before her. But this time, instead of the desperate confusion she had felt that terrible night, she experienced only joy. 6 months ago, I made you an impulsive proposal. Born of anger at injustice, Nathan said, withdrawing a small velvet box from his pocket. Today I'm making you a considered proposal, born of love and respect. He opened the box to reveal not a massive diamond designed to impress, but an elegant sapphire surrounded by smaller stones, a ring chosen for its beauty rather than its ability to make a statement. Celeste Romano, will you marry me? You build a life with me as equal partners in every sense? I promise to value your dreams as much as my own, to support your independence while offering you my complete devotion. This time Celeste didn't hesitate. Yes, Nathan. Yes, to all of it. As he slipped the ring onto her finger and rose to take her in his arms, Celeste marveled at the journey that had brought her to this moment. The worst night of her life had led her to the best day of her life. And she finally understood that sometimes what looks like an ending is actually the beginning of something extraordinary. Their kiss was tender and full of promise, sealing not just their engagement, but their commitment to building something together. That would be stronger and more beautiful than anything either could create alone. Outside the office windows, the city sparkled in the afternoon sun, full of possibility and hope for the future they would share.